You know, welcome back to Nickel and Just Comic Corner, classic, lesson non-classics. This is episode number 31, 36, and Doubleshot 3030. Both these two trades are the final trades for the particular books who had ended. First one, no reason for it at all. The other one, there was a reason for it. First up we have is She-Hulk by Rowell, Volume 5, All In. This contains the final 5 issues of Sensational She-Hulk, Volume 2. Yes. I'll get to basically my thoughts on when the book ended last year. Of course, my Rowell, of course, this is of course the final conclusion from a run. With art by Scarlet, with the cover artwork here done by Jen Birchler, 6 and 7. Chris Attia does issue 8. Issue 9 is done by Scarlet, who's the interior artist, and Ron Vajo Jr. And the final issue is covered by Scarlet and the Edgar Delgado. So we start off basically with Valerie berating Jim Walters for what happened with the rampage with their cousin, and because she is basically suspended for 2 weeks. And of course, basically take his clients, but they have 2 clients basically there, and they have nowhere to live. They were evicted so he just, of course, make her scarce. So Jen pretty much takes these 2 deviants, take them to her apartment, which her live-in boyfriend basically is there. Of course, she does explain what's going on, and well, he does kind of accept it. So they get, oh, she has a suspension, but let's take a vacation. So yeah, and of course those 2 will stay in their apartment. So then she goes fly out to space in her space car, which she got that back in the second issue of the book written by Dan Slott. So they proceed to go to a space resort where they basically have a nice room. You have her come up with this beautiful dress, like her being huggable, and of course Jack of Hearts wearing his classic iconic look that he's known for. And then later on they run into a woman by the name of Grandella, who, get this, was a character from Silver Surfer Volume 3 back in the 1990s. I believe this was her first appearance since the 90s. Let me take a look about that one. ENSAT. Thank you. Because I believe this was the first appearance in the 90s that she was seen. I'm just taking a quick look here about this one. Yeah, she's a Ron Marks character. Yes. Yeah, she debuted in Silver Surfer, and well, technically she did briefly appear in another book I'm going to talk about in a minute, but that was a previous appearance prior to appearing in these 3 issues. But prior to another book I'm going to talk about next, she previously appeared in Cosmic Powers Unlimited number 3, which was released in 1995. And that was the last time anybody saw her. Her next appearance was not until almost 30 years later. Why in the world it took so long for this character back? I have honestly no idea. It is quite baffling, to say the least, of why in the world some characters should take a long time. And of course, Mr. the kind of each and of course, like, oh look, it's Jack of Hearts. Yeah, and Jack mentions basically about Silver Surfer 82 and Cosmic Powers number 3. That's probably the last time that he probably saw her. This barbecue was appearing in his title. Yeah, Cosmic Powers was kind of in a way his title. they kind of in a way work together. And yeah, she was practical, like almost like a co-star of the book. Yeah, she's back here for these 3 issues and seen since then. So they reminisce basically about the time fighting Thanos. Then falling in love, but he couldn't keep the suit for some reason because he was trapped in his suit, but now he can. And then she's contacted by the crime boss from the opening issues who caused a rampage. Yes. Yeah. So, technically, this was the first time he appears, and he appears in the following issue, and hasn't been seen since then. Oh, it's booked in last year, believe it or not. Yeah. So, basically, oh yeah, I think that She-Hulk's basically thinking for justice, but not really. And then, of course, Jack basically thinks that he had loved at one point, but then, of course, he starts fighting She-Hulk here. Yep. And then, of course, basically, by the end of this, like, oh, Jack's going with her, but nope. Then Jack confesses that he loves Jen. Jen feels the same way. And they go home. And, of course, basically, meanwhile, in Manhattan, we have Hellcat show up here. Yes, Hellcat. Where, and, of course, basically, it's like, so fun. In fact, she shows up here. And then we lead to the last 2 issues called Team Jen. Of course, they get home after kissing in the hallway. And the place is basically a mess. Everybody Cars is like starting like some business. And Rancic basically is wearing She-Hulk's shirt, which eventually she gets when you can take him off. So he mentions, oh yeah, the reason why he says her apartment's cold. And then she goes to Punch Club, where she proceeds to have sparring matches with Titania and Volcana. Yep. And then Carol Danvers shows up to offer her membership with the Avengers. There is, of course, basically mentioned the fact, oh, she used to date Thor. Which, in my opinion, that was a terrible idea. I was not a fan of basically her dating Thor. It was by far one of the most weirdest ideas I have ever seen. And it didn't really go anywhere. Not really. And the whole point of this 2-parter is to allow her to join the Avengers. Which she kind of works with them. Of course, currently Scarlet Witch is back with the team now. So, and Jen's like, oh yeah, go whenever they want. Of course, basically, it's like, yeah, she ends up in bed with Jack of Hearts. They don't have sex, but yeah, she's big, but her legs and feet are sticking out. I can never stand when characters do this, where they have their feet sticking out under the covers like that. And I'm like, how can you sleep like that? That is like so uncomfortable. Like, if I was Jen, I would scoot my legs up a little bit, or basically have a different shaped bed. And then for the final issue of the book, basically Avengers going on a mission. Of course, Pop City, Mallory, of course, is back. Everything's back in normal. And so they'll come calling. And of course, basically the book ends with her with Patsy, and that's it. That's the book in a nutshell. Really good. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Sadly put, now we're going to the final thoughts of this run by Rowell. End of basically Volume 2 and Rowell's time writing She-Hulk. Rowell did an excellent job writing this book. And this one was just a continuation of the previous book. Oh, that's pretty much what it was. Now, did I think this book had any reason to end? No. Not really. Did I think this book was actually pretty good stuff? Marvel decided to axe the book after only 10 issues. No, I didn't think it was a bad seller. I'm sure it was probably a pretty good seller. Given the fact, yes, they brought this book back for... What was the reason I think of? Oh, was because basically of the She-Hulk TV show, which no one liked. Yes, that's probably the reason for that. But here's the thing. And here's something apparently Marvel has forgotten when it comes to this character. That, here's the thing. The comic Jen Walters is better than the live action one. That plain simple. Now, has she been active since her book got axed? this book acts after like 10 issues. Yes, she later next appeared in Amazing Spider-Man. She became part of the symbol. I think she's part of the emergency response unit stuff. She got a little part in Venom War, some digital stuff. Popped up a couple of Daredevil. Her most recent appearance was actually in the most recent issue that just came out for Fantastic Four, which came out 2 months ago. And no, I'm not kidding about that. An issue that came out 2 months ago, and that was her most recent appearance to date. You're thinking, okay, what about her BFF Patsy Walker? Like, great character she is, aka Hellcat. Like, I mean, the immediate question is, what was her most what did she do after this book? She was just back here as a recurring character, which I love the fact they made a recurring character in the book. Pretty much after this, she was appearing in Venom War Zombies, and that has been it for her. Yeah, she appeared in that miniseries. How about Jen's live-in boyfriend? Jack of Hearts. Like, the character who Rowell basically had to hook up. He is not person. Oh, by the way, he does interact briefly with Scarlet Witch, doesn't talk to her. But he has not been seen since this book wrapped up. And that was back in August. Yeah, the last issue came out in August of last year. You know how long that was? It was 8 months ago. He has not been here since then. Are they still dating? Possibly. Mallory Brooke, a character who Dan Slott created, who's been a very fairly recurring character for She-Hulk over the years. She has also not been seen since this book wrapped up. Awesome Andy. I mean, has he appeared in any comics since basically this book wrapped up? Oh, my dad would love this guy. Big Mets fan. My dad's a big fan of Mets. He has also not been seen since this book wrapped up. Rantank the Reject. Yeah, he's an Eternal. He's first for Eternals. Now, prior to this book, his last appearance was in AXE Death Mutants. He has also not been seen since this book wrapped up. Carcass, the very nice guy. Let me guess. Also not appeared. Yep. He has not appeared since this book wrapped up. Yeah. They even threw in Willie Limpkin. Fantastic character. Very beloved recurring character in the Marvel Comic Universe. Who, in the last several years, has done a lot per se. Of course, after this, he did return after this. In issue of Venom War. And like I just said, this book had no reason to end. This book was great, had great writing, great artwork. I'm sure for Marvel was probably a big seller, but I guess higher up, but probably Marvel thought, oh, this book is not Amazing Spider-Man, this book is not Avengers, it's not Iron Man, it's not Thor, it's not Incredible Hulk. Well, I can't say anything about Captain America, but if it's not one of those titles, cancel it. Don't freaking care. They're probably like, oh, we don't care the fact people like this book. In my honest opinion, and I stick by this opinion, the cancellation book was a mistake on Marvel Comics' part, because this was a terrible idea. Why would you end this book for? Why? Because you need for other titles? You can still have an ongoing series for her without canceling the freaking book. I mean, this is so baffling. It's because Marvel in the last few years, sometimes basically we have these great titles being published and then they get axed for no reason. Like, doesn't matter the fact that some of these titles are bad. At least Immortal Thor is really good. So is Avengers. Incredible Hulk is fantastic. These three titles are amazing. I've never had a bad issue with these ones. currently. And She-Hulk, amazing title. Absolutely amazing. No bad issue. And this is by far one of the longest running years for She-Hulk. But then I was like, nope. Axis book. All because, now, in theory, you could think, oh, was the comic canceled because the show was terrible? I don't think that was the reason why. I think some people at Marvel really wanted She-Hulk so badly that she can have her own book. But yet, Spider-Man, if we need him, they can need him right away. He still have his own title. Daredevil kind of the same thing. We don't see his title get axed. And here's the weird thing about Daredevil. His title was technically never canceled. At all. I mean, not that I can think of, no. His title's been relaunched a few times over the years. But if you think about it, the book has been consistently published since the freaking 60s. It's never been canceled. We never had a period of time where we had no Daredevil ongoing series. I mean, as long as it might go is maybe like 2 or 3 months before we get another ongoing. We don't go a whole year without another ongoing. And that's shocking for Daredevil. And I think the reason why that title still gets published over, let's say, She-Hulk, because people love Daredevil. Despite whoever's writing it, people still love the character. And plus also, his Netflix show was amazing. And also the Born Again title. Alright, so, next up we have is Scarlet Witch by Steve Orlando, Volume 2, Magnum Opus. And this book actually have a reason for its planned end at the 10 issues. And the reason is because 60 years of the debut of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. And that was the only reason why. Yep. They kind of did the same thing with their title, basically I'm going to discuss soon, where they did that miniseries purely because 60 years of the character's debut. Yep. And by the way, does this book include his J.V. Rince X-Men 4? No. It might be including Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch if that trade comes out. By the way, first and only time we actually have a team up between the two siblings. And plus, this title is fantastic. And this title did come back after the miniseries Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch wrapped up. And that volume also lasts 10 issues. And that ended for the return of Vision and Scarlet Witch for some reason. I'm not sure why. So the artwork for this book is done by 2 different artists. For Lenz Tomo does basically 629. He co-does with Sarah Pachilla, who does pretty much all 5 issues of this book. The only issue that Lenz does not do is issue 10. There's also a backup feature, special story here called Crash Course. Let's see. So yeah, so what happens to these issues? So we start out with Grindella, the character we just saw over in She-Hulk, which she appears right after in that title, which it was shocking the fact that Steve Lang brought her back first. And then we think about Rowell. So, yeah, she gets to here for a couple issues. She wants help, wants one help or something, which she does, and then goes visit. Well, yeah, Derek fell. Hey, Lance, show you the Crystal Emperor is married to my son. Yeah. It's kind of a weird thing related to Wicked, of how the fact he is Scarlet Witch's son, because he is a reincarnation of a soul that was used. Yeah, it's really weird. It was something that the Crazy Young Avengers did. So they have to introduce themselves. Yeah, just before you speak, I like to say, "Hi, Mom." Yes, of course. Basically, like. Of course, she's very proud of the fact her son basically is happily married. Of course, no mention what happened with our son, Speed, who's got the powers of his awesome uncle, Quicksilver. Which, by the way, Speed never met his uncle until the Chosen Crusade miniseries. You're thinking, really? Yeah, that was the first time you met Quicksilver. So yeah, the whole thing a little cosmic. We have Wiccan briefly fighting his mom, his awesome mom, mind you. And of course they go through the archives of the Kree Skrull Empire, and a little bit some action here. Really cool stuff here. They slice up some aliens. It's like basically like Scarlet having fun with her awesome son. And they go home with Darcy, and then Magneto shows up. She says, "Captain Magneto, father." Yes, she still refers to him as father, despite the stupid retcon that was forced by Rick Remender in AVX Avengers vs. X-Men Access. Those who don't know, that retcon was basically done because of Marvel's blood feud with Fox over the rights of the X-Men. And somehow it's been undone, the fact that they're somehow related. Though they kind of changed it where he's sort of like her adoptive father now. Despite the fact for decades it's been established the fact that he is her biological father. It's weird. Or the fact that basically her mom looks exactly like her. So, for the remainder of the book, basically have Wanda team up with her father. Well, only about the last door, and of course they agreed. But yeah, they lost a hand, and they go to Cole, Oklahoma. Looks like freaking. I mean, the way this looks, it looks like this is basically Oz. I'm like, okay, Steve, you had to basically make an Oz reference. And look, here's our Wicked Witch of the West with, oh my gosh, the cat versions of the Cowardly Lion, the Scarecrow, and the Tin Man. Oh my gosh. This whole issue is a Wizard of Oz, basically, Easter egg. And of course you have Wanda turn old briefly, though she's able to basically... though she's able to turn back. Yeah. And it turns out, yep, she did go with Wonderful Wizard of Oz. And talking to her father, and then all of a sudden, Diablo shows up. Yes, Diablo, an old Fantastic Four villain who was referred to himself as the world's greatest alchemist, aka chemistry, where he's in Miyaga City talking to some mysterious person over a sword, and then we see this very beautiful woman with a staff, and that leads into issue number 8, where Scarlet Witch pays a visit to Loki. I should point out, though, this is not the same character created by Jack the King Kirby and Stan Man Lee. This is a younger version of the character who is sort of a copy of him. Yes. It's kind of interesting. The Loki here is Lokal. He is, well, he's a creation of Karen Gillian. First appeared in issue 622, which I believe was a Fear Itself tie-in thing. Basically, his real name is just Loki spelled backwards. All he technically is just a clone of Loki who can transform himself into a kid. And he's got to appreciate the fact in this book here, he's not drawn to be feminine. Yes. Some artists, for some strange reason, I do not know why, but they decided to have him look feminine. It is by far one of the most dumbest ideas. He is one of 2 characters in our comics who currently like to look like this. The other being Star Fox. Yes, frickin' Star Fox. You're thinking, why the heck would Star Fox look feminine? I don't know. It's something Marvel Comics likes doing to characters nowadays. Yeah, let's make him feminine because we're stupid. Of course, he last appeared prior to this in the opening issue of Mortal 4, and then he appears in his own title, then he pops up again in Mortal 4. Yep. Basically, yeah. And he works with her father. He has some giant stuff here. And basically following Simon, of course. He's only here for this one issue, and at one point it seems like okay, so, yeah, I'm glad they dropped the whole feminine thing. Yeah, it's still kind of there, but it's not as obvious as it once was. Yes. Now, who is this mysterious woman? This woman with the buns in her hair? This is Hellfixer. Yep, issue 7 was practically her debut appearance. And kind of in a way, this is probably Steve Orlando basically creating her specifically be a villain for Wanda. Yeah, that's simply put the reason for it. Okay, so Darcy here, Magneto with a beard. And then we have Wednesday, we have Fox alongside. We have Magneto, I think it's Wiccan, I think it is. No, it's actually, this guy is not Wiccan. It's actually the new Omega the Unknown. I say new one because the original one's dead. Yeah, the original one died. He died in the last issue of his very brief solo title. And became New Omega the Unknown thanks to Darkhold. And we have a few gifts besides him pop up here. Yes, every turn back normal. And of course they go to New Amazonia. Where you pop up with appearance by Man-Thing, who is not burning Magneto for some reason. And then we have Luna. Yes, Luna. Those of you curious, who is this girl? This is the daughter of Quicksilver and Crystal. And here's the thing. Scarlet Witch is her awesome aunt. Yes. Yeah. And prior to this book, she previously appeared in the issue of Fantastic Four by Dan Slott, which revealed in a... Let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, she was like on screen, but yeah. But after this, she does appear in the opening issue, but she's still a good character. I like her. But the thing is, prior to her appear recently, she appeared in the opening issue of Royals. She appeared in a couple issues of the miniseries Lockjaw, the Age of Quicksilver No Surrender, Fantastic Four prior to this. Next time she appears was in Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. So, yeah. Scarlet Witch is here too. It's like... Yep. And then the in-betweener is here, and then we have a daughter of Rogue and Captain America pop up in this book. You're thinking, who the heck is this girl? There's someone named Vincent Von Doom. Yeah, he's from What If. He appears here. So this is Crusader. Yeah, from What If 114, which I believe this was... this is like fairly recent. It's like 25 years later. I'm like, okay. And then basically we have, get this, Dr. Drood appeared in this book. You think, wait, Dr. Drood? Did you know at one point this man died? Oh yeah, he died. In the final issue of his miniseries, Drood. And then he came back during Chaos War. Prior to appearing in this book, he appeared in an issue of Iron Man. Yes, they had him appear in the current Iron Man book, where now he's part of AIM for reasons. So, and then we run into a character who's not been seen since the previous volume of Scarlet Witch. That being the Wu, this mystic detective from Hong Kong. Yeah, this is only her third ever appearance in the comics. Yes, third. She first appeared in Doctor Strange, Last Days of Magic. And she is a creation of, you could say kind of Jason Aaron, but more like, you could say maybe James Robinson with more basically involved with the character. And prior to this very issue, this was her first appearance in 8 years. Yes. And I thought, great time to see this character again. She's definitely a character that I would love to see like a mini-series. Not necessarily an ongoing, but maybe mini-series. So, and then she made a visit to the Strange Academy because she works there, and then she goes back home to her shop. That gives her an item. And then she confronts her villain in the book, which leads to the final issue of this book, which pops the next volume. And then we have her fighting the Hex Killer. And really cool stuff here. They built this character really well. But she does come back. Yeah, and this old man, is it Magneto or is it Joseph? It's Joseph. Yep, Joseph. You think it's Magneto, but actually it was Joseph. Yes, they brought him back here after last appearing in Uncanny X-Men Volume 5, number 16. Where he died, and they came back this book. And his last appearance was actually in the final issue of this book, which came out a little over a year ago. Yep, so, and then the book ends with Next Wonder Returns and Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. This book was amazing. I had some difficulty to get my hands on this book per se. Yeah, I had some difficulty. Purely because basically that I was hoping maybe my local Barnes & would have next volume, but this volume wasn't picked up by them for some reason. So I saw it was on here. I figured, get it. Yes, that's exactly what I did. Great book overall. I give this book a 10 out of 10. Final thoughts on the third volume for Scarlet Witch. But the first volume of Steve Orlando's run of Scarlet Witch is really good. I thoroughly enjoyed this thing. I'm looking forward to reviewing Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch whenever they get their hands on it. But at least this one had a reason to end, unlike Scarlet Witch. Yep. But not much else to say about this book. Alright, so that is pretty much it for particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and I will see you all later for more videos. Okay? See ya. Bye.